Chapter 91 Clouds of War. You are listening at novelfull.audio. However, although Barron wants to give News Corporation a little fight back and he also has some evidence of eavesdropping, he does not intend to expose this matter now, because everything needs to maximize interests. He will not emotionally ruin his plan and expose the other party early just because of this offense. At present, for News Corporation, this kind of eavesdropping is not considered a large-scale use by them. Even if it is exposed, it will have some impact on News Corporation, but they can completely push it to individual cases. Apologizing for their lax management will not lead to much follow-up. Moreover, Barron's current influence on the British government can only be said to be no different. You must know that the current British Prime Minister has a close relationship with Rupert Murdoch. He was elected to power, and the media owned by News Corporation. The credit is indispensable, so if this matter is detonated at this time, I am afraid that the final solution will only be raise high and fall gently. Why was it that in a previous life, it was only after the Labour Party that was in power in England fell from power and the Conservative Party came to power that a large-scale investigation into News Corporation's wiretapping scandal began? There are naturally reasons for this. Laura, help me order a bouquet of flowers from a town near Chatsworth Manor and deliver it to the manor. Give it to Miss Bonnie. Just red roses. Okay, Your Highness the Duke. In any case, although it is true that Barron has nothing to feel guilty about, women, of course, still need to be coaxed more. Mr. Cameron, I read your speech on Iraq in the House of Commons last month, and I thought it was very insightful. Do you think so too? Your Majesty the Duke. At this time, Cameron was still very young, just in his early 30s. As a member of Congress, his performance in the House of Commons was also remarkable. Hearing Cameron asking himself this question, Barron smiled and said, "Yes, I also think that after participating in the war on terrorism in Afghanistan, it is very reckless to send our soldiers to the front line again, especially when all the current arguments against Iraq's so-called weapons of mass destruction are not on the premise of too much substantial evidence." Entering September, the clouds of war are increasingly gathering internationally. In fact, as early as January this year, the then President of the United States proposed the so-called Axis of Evil Countries. His statement at that time was that Iraq, Iran and North Korea were seeking to develop and proliferate weapons to varying degrees. Weapons of mass destruction such as nuclear weapons, biological weapons, and chemical weapons have formed an axis of evil. In order to prevent terrorists from acquiring weapons of mass destruction, the United States has listed these three countries as targets for the global war on terrorism. In May of this year, the United States accused Libya, Syria, and Cuba of also seeking weapons of mass destruction and included them in the expanded list of Axis of Evil countries proposed by Bush. But now, many people can see that it is a high probability that the United States wants to use force against Iraq. After all, since they have made the rumor loud and clear, and have used a lot of public opinion to support their opposition to Iraq. The legitimacy of the Axis of Evil countries to carry out attacks, so with the American style of conduct, it is impossible to let it pass with a big thunder and a small rain, and among the so-called Axis of Evil countries they listed, the last three countries are not the focus. Among the three key countries, Iran, Iraq and North Korea, Iraq can be said to be the softest persimmon. It is also the most suitable for them to take action. As the closest ally of the United States, the British Prime Minister has actively echoed the United States' global war on terrorism from the beginning. He has long revealed in various speeches that Britain will join the United States in joining the fight against the Axis of Evil. Country is under attack. As the opposition party at this time, the Conservative Party will naturally struggle with the ruling Labour Party in all aspects. What they say they support, we must oppose. What they oppose, we must support. Therefore, in terms of their attitude towards the Axis of Evil countries such as Iraq, most members of the Conservative Party, including Cameron, are opposed to directly participating in the war. They have been asking the government to provide guidance on the so-called Axis of Evil countries. Weapons of mass destruction. I am very happy to see that your opinion is the same. Your Highness, the Duke, this time is different from the war on terrorism in Afghanistan. We are not dealing with terrorist organizations, but to attack a country. This kind of thing, no matter what, you need to be cautious at all times. During the debate on the Iraq issue in the House of Commons a few days ago, Cameron, as a member of Congress, spoke outright against sending troops directly to the war. In today's chat with Barron, he still insisted on this attitude. Their meeting today was at the Devonshire, Chelsea, hotel, which had not yet officially opened. Therefore, the meeting between the two was relatively private. After all, one is a Conservative MP and the other is a Duke. Even if the two can be said to be personal friends, once they are photographed by some media, it is easy to cause some discussion. We have a certain influence in the Middle East, and there is no need to participate in a war like the United States, which is obviously to remove the eyesore. Even if we are not directly famous, our interests can be guaranteed in the end, and the war will definitely inflicting casualties is an unnecessary sacrifice for those soldiers, so in the future, my newspaper will also try its best to oppose the Prime Minister's approach of leading US into war. For the news media, the so-called strict neutrality is completely impossible for rational people. The British media must safeguard the interests of Britain, the American media must safeguard the interests of the United States, the Western media must safeguard the interests of the West, of course, except for those media funded by certain foundations who will represent the United States. Lord's interests. Within the UK, different media are also clearly divided. The Times and the Financial Times are right-wing and relatively conservative, while The Guardian is notoriously radical and left-leaning. Generally speaking, they will choose a party to support based on political demands before the election. At present, The Times and The Guardian both favor the Labour Party. Perhaps among these major national newspapers, the only one that claims not to have any support for the party and is known for its neutrality is The Independent, which was acquired by Barron's, but now, under normal circumstances, Barron rarely interferes with the reports of The Independent, but on certain matters, this newspaper must represent his interests, so Cameron's intentional closeness with Barron at this time is naturally not just for personal friendship. As a member of the Conservative Party, he naturally hopes that Barron, the boss of The Independent, will being able to stand on their own side and increase their voice in public opinion. At their level, the premise of friendship is that everyone gets what they need. They are not emotional people, they are all adults, and they understand that there is no such thing as friendship for no reason. Barron is willing to bet on Cameron and the Conservative Party behind him in advance, but this does not mean that he will stand with the opponent. Clearly, everything needs to be weighed and compromised. Although Blair's government is indeed not friendly to the nobles, and many of their policies are not liked by Barron, there is no need to make too much of a fuss at this time. Just need to show your attitude in a timely manner. A good person cannot be favored, only a clear distinction between love and hate can be given. It's on the shelves today. I'll try to update it as much as possible. Thank you for your support. Chapter 92: The Background of the Nobles. You are listening at novelfull.audio. When Barron returned to the hotel room after meeting Cameron, he saw that Chris had gotten up and was sitting in front of the makeup mirror combing her hair. Do you need my help, ma'am? Barron walked over with a smile and said in a deliberately flirtatious tone, but what greeted him was an elegant eye roll from the Viscountess. I told you not to be so rough every time, Barron. Seemingly still a little angry, Chris opened the hand that Barron extended. My clothes are torn. If this keeps happening, I won't see you again. Don't be angry, honey, I'll ask someone to buy you some later. Barron looked at the pieces of cloth in the trash can that had been thrown into it by the Viscountess, especially the pieces of stockings and the small purple hollow piece of cloth. Such a scene was captured by Barron, and his eyes couldn't help but fall on the Viscountess. So to speak, she doesn't have. Hurry up, I'm going to go back and clean up. Ian will be back tomorrow. Viscount Bute went back to his family in Scotland for business in the past 2 days, but Chris was not with him, which gave Barron the opportunity to deepen his friendship with her. Now hearing what the Viscountess said, Barron had a smile on his face. If that's the case, then let's cherish our time today. Why do you still have to? Don't tear it apart. Amidst the Viscountess's exclamation, she only heard a hiss in the room, and then, at this time, less than 100 meters away from the Devonshire Luxury Hotel, there was a store facing the street that was being renovated. The building of this store also has the style of the Valorian period, and its signboard, Duchy Selected Market, has been hung on the bright glass door at the entrance. This Duke Selection supermarket will be the first high-end supermarket owned by Devonshire Ecological Agriculture. Duchy Selected Market, DSM, specializes in natural and organic foods. The most important products are pure products produced from the ecological farms of Devonshire Ecological Agriculture Company and its affiliated factories. Natural organic food, in addition, some other brands of products will be screened based on extremely strict standards to meet more customer needs. DSM's positioning is to serve high-end customers, so the first store was chosen in the wealthy area of Chelsea. Next, it will open new stores throughout London, including wealthy areas such as Kensington and Mayfair. Storefront, the person in charge of DSM is Korean Hawk, who they specially hired from Waitrose Company, who has many years of experience in high-end supermarket operations. This supermarket chain is a well-known high-end brand in England and has been supplying to the royal family before. According to the latest survey data, the United States has the largest and most mature organic product market in the world. The United States accounts for 40% of the global organic market, Germany accounts for 14%, France accounts for 8%, and the United Kingdom only accounts for 4%, which is about the same as Switzerland. In the future, people in developed countries around the world, especially high-end customers with higher spending power, will pay more and more attention to natural and organic food. This will also be a market with great development potential. Therefore, with Devonshire Ecological Agriculture Company, Baron decided to enter the field of high-end food supermarkets and at the same time provide sales terminals for his ecological and organic farms to obtain higher profits. Duke's Selection is DSM's own brand, which will pursue the highest quality and ensure a high-end image. At the same time, in terms of DSM's shareholding, Devonshire Ecological Agriculture Company holds 60% of the shares and is responsible for the daily operations of the supermarket and the supply of products. DS Asset Management invested £15 million and holds 40% of its shares. These funds will be used to open new DSM stores and build a constant temperature logistics warehouse in London. To provide warehousing and distribution for DSM stores in London, it is also worth mentioning that DSM is a membership-based high-end supermarket. The current first store in Chelsea will provide home delivery services to member customers with just a phone call. Of course, it is mainly delivered to Chelsea. If you are in other areas, it is not impossible, but the cost of delivery is very high. Often this is not a big deal for those rich people. Question. In up to 2 weeks, our Devonshire Hotel will be open for business. At that time, the Cavendish Hotel in Soho will be vacant. According to your arrangements, it will be demolished and a 35-meter-high hotel will be built on the site. The construction period of the 6-story Cavendish Tower is expected to be 6 to 7 months. After completion, we will use 15 of the floors to open the new 4-star Cavendish Hotel. Cavendish Hotel Group General Manager Rob Pike briefed Baron on the hotel group's plans. The land on which the Cavendish Hotel in Soho is located has been purchased by DS Asset Management, and a new building will be built on the original site after the hotel building is demolished. In addition to the Devonshire Luxury Hotel, 2 new Cavendish hotels will open in Soho and King's Cross over the next 2 years. But apart from that, Cavendish Hotel Group will continue to make other moves. After the opening of the Devonshire Hotel, our most important task is to renovate Callan Castle in the Scottish Highlands and build it into a castle hotel that will be open to tourists. In addition to Chatsworth, the Devonshire family also owns 2 other castles and manors, located in Scotland and Ireland. The ancient castle in Scotland is Callan Castle. It is located on the edge of a cliff in the Scottish Highlands. The scenery is very magnificent. It's just that because the Devonshire family didn't pay much attention to it before, Callan Castle has only been maintained as a residence for the family to visit Scotland occasionally. Now Baron is preparing to develop the place. Callan Castle has a completely different scenery from Chatsworth Manor. The most important thing is that Callan Castle is very close to the city. From the castle, you can overlook the surrounding countryside. The city of Carron is therefore very suitable for tourism and hotel industry. It is precisely because of this that the Cavendish Hotel Group is preparing to use the funds obtained from selling the real estate in Soho to DS Capital to rent part of Callan Castle from the Chatsworth Charitable Trust and develop the overall. It was restored and developed into a stylish hotel, Devonshire Castle Hotel. What can be said to be the most valuable thing about a noble family, especially a ducal family? It is not their industries and properties, but the historical heritage owned by this aristocratic family. With these, it will naturally become an extremely high-end brand. These centuries-long aristocratic history itself is the favorite story of those customers. Of course, the premise is that you need to have enough funds to promote it so that everyone will accept your stories and pay for them. Chapter 93 Bad News. You are listening at novelfull.audio. However, not everything was going so smoothly. Soon, the manager of Summit Media, Fiegel, brought some not-so-good news. Rejected? Is it a matter with ITV? After hearing what Fiegel said that Summit Media wanted to participate in the transfer of ITV Digital's terrestrial digital TV license, but was rejected, he couldn't help but ask. No, ITV doesn't care who takes over ITV Digital. They just want to get rid of this burden. The decision was made by the Culture, Media and Sports Select Committee. They believed that we did not have enough funds to carry out terrestrial digital television business, and we have no previous experience in operating television stations, so we are not qualified to participate in the transfer of one of the 3 terrestrial digital television licenses owned by ITV Digital. Baron had previously asked the Prince of Wales to help him carry out work in this area, but it seemed that the effect was not very good. If ITV is not satisfied with its participation, there is still some room for change, but now that the government refuses their participation, it will be more difficult to handle. But even so, Baron was still not too panicked, but calmly said to Fiegel, "The BBC is still negotiating with ITV and the government, so you should contact the BBC first. They don't need 3 licenses at all, and they are not that enthusiastic about this matter, so go through the BBC and take a look first. Is there any way?" "Okay, Your Highness the Duke. Besides, forget it, let me do this. You can contact the BBC first." After sending Fiegel away, Baron began to think about this matter. It seems that he needs to come forward personally to inquire about the news about this matter. He needs to know the specific situation of the Culture, Media and Sports Committee, who is opposed to this matter, what is the reason, and is there anything else behind it? What about factors? Your Highness, what do you think of Mr. Prime Minister's active advocacy for us to continue to join the attack on Iraq? That the Crown Prince is indeed very diligent. It can be said that most of the year, you can see him in certain charity and literary events. This time, Baron met the Crown Prince at the promotion of an environmental protection project, so naturally, after the Crown Prince gave a brief speech, Baron got the opportunity to talk to him privately. Regarding what Baron said, the Crown Prince looked a little cautious. There are still big differences in this matter. I think it is still difficult to make a final decision. We need to judge whether we need to join it based on our interests. Well, the attitude of the United States has indeed affected many people. But what you said before is right, everything must be based on the interests of Great Britain, isn't it? I don't hope that the final result will be to sacrifice our interests to deal with the United States. We are not their vassals, but I was disappointed to find that there are already signs of a shift toward this outcome. Baron's words are not unfounded. Britain does have a close relationship with the United States. To put it bluntly, they are like each other's father and son. Historically speaking, the United States became independent from British rule, so in the hearts of many British people, the United States is regarded as their son. However, after World War II, a pattern of confrontation between the two powers was formed. Britain fell from its position as the global hegemon, but it needed the support of the United States to continue to become one of the powerful countries. Later, it relied more and more on the United States. In the eyes of the United States, here, England is like a son, and he will beat him from time to time. Well, it can be said that human relations are chaotic, but now Britain is not as obedient and following the United States as it was 20 years later, or 10 years later. Instead, it pays more attention to its influence in Europe and the world. The important turning point was during the years when Prime Minister Clare was in power, especially after following the United States in the Iraq War. Britain began to become the follower of the United States. You must know that in Baron's previous life, the United States did not receive authorization from the United Nations to use force against Iraq. Instead, it bypassed the United Nations and forcibly launched a war. This move was even opposed by many of its allies at the time. The only one who followed the United States and sent troops was Britain. Because of this, Claire was protested by the British people and her support rate plummeted, because in the final analysis, unlike the military-industrial energy complex represented by the American commander-in-chief at this time, the British side does not have that strong need for war, and there is no need to participate in the war against Iraq. Moreover, the main reason why the United States used force against Iraq was that the other party attempted to use euros to settle oil. This would have a huge impact on the dollar oil system, but does this have anything to do with England? Neither the US dollar nor the euro has much to do with the British pound, and this also involves the interests of the European Union. If it is only based on national interests, Britain can just sit on the sidelines. Therefore, after Baron said this, His Royal Highness the Crown Prince still agreed very much from the look on his face. Of course, this time, Baron came here not to talk about this with the Crown Prince. The reason why he started talking was just to introduce his own topic. Your Highness, so I think that many times, our situation is a little weird. How do you say it? Baron. Our government is following the footsteps of the United States, but our media is controlled by American capital, and our finance is also. Having said this, Baron shook his head. Next, I'm afraid that we in Great Britain will no longer face our own allies, but will face the suzerain country as a slave country. Hearing Baron's alarmist words, the Crown Prince wanted to say something, but after thinking about it, he found that it was really difficult to refute, so he couldn't help but sigh. The current day was no longer what he had seen back then. That empire on which the sun never sets. In addition, did you know? Your Highness, the Culture, Media and Sports Special Committee has rejected our participation in ITV Digital's competition for terrestrial digital television licenses, and the BBC is currently not so enthusiastic about this project. If this continues, the programs that people will see in the future will probably be monopolized by Sky TV. Baron, I have been paying attention to this matter, and the reason is not too complicated. The Crown Prince patted Baron on the shoulder and said, in the matter of terrestrial digital TV, the government is still worried about your company's qualifications. If it can meet the requirements, I will help you negotiate a peace. I understand this, but I'm just afraid that there will be some human factors in it. After all, you know, my newspaper has been criticizing the Prime Minister recently, and Ms. Joelle, you know, she has always been loyal to the Prime Minister. Dedicated. The Ms. Joelle that Baron is talking about is Tessa Joelle, the current Minister of Culture, Information and Sport in the Cabinet. On many matters, she is the most supportive member of the Cabinet for the Prime Minister. It is no wonder that Baron would there is this speculation. Chapter 94 Counterattack. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It won't be that bad, Baron, I will help you, but first you need to meet the other person's requirements, do you understand? Of course, Your Highness, all I need is a chance to compete fairly. Seeing the smile on Baron's face, the Prince of Wales nodded. Next, the two people chatted casually about other things, including the ecological farm. Baron also had a lot to ask the Crown Prince for advice. This aspect is the Crown Prince's hobby, and he is very happy to share it. Basically, this meeting met Baron's expectations. No matter what, he understood that to make iron, you need to be tough yourself. With his current status, he can get some conveniences that ordinary people do not have, but at the same time, he will also be scrupulous by some people in some aspects. In the final analysis, it is nothing more than a dispute of interests. The cake is so big. If you take one more bite, others will take one less bite. Whatever you get, someone will lose it. Competition is naturally everywhere. Your Highness the Duke. On the way back, Baron, who felt a little tired, leaned on the back seat of the Rolls-Royce and took a nap. When he heard the personal assistant in the front seat calling him, Baron opened his eyes and realized that the car had stopped at some point. Already arrived at the hotel. After listening to Wang Wanting's words, Baron nodded. Through the car window, the historic door of the Devonshire Hotel had lights on. When he opened the car door, Baron felt a gust of cold wind. At this time, the temperature in London was already much cooler at night. Do you have anything else to do later? Laura. Upon hearing Baron's question, Wang Wanting was stunned for a moment. No. You haven't eaten yet, so just eat with me. Wang Wanting is already single in London. Previously, she rented a place a little further away. However, as a personal assistant, there are always many times when she needs to be at Baron's call. Therefore, she lives in Baron in Germany. After entering the Wensier Hotel, after consulting her opinion, a guest room was prepared for her here. She usually stayed in the hotel. Similarly, the Chinese chef that Baron hired before also came to the hotel and would prepare meals for Baron in the hotel kitchen when he needed it. During this period, Bonnie spent most of the time filming the show at Chatsworth Manor, so when Baron usually returned here, he was alone, which is why today, he stayed. Wang Wanting had dinner together because he thought that the other party had been his personal assistant for some time, but he didn't really have much time to chat in private. Does the food here taste good to you, Laura? Because it was a private chat, Baron spoke directly in Chinese. It's very good. Your chef cooks very authentic Chinese food, Your Highness the Duke. I remember you told me that you are from Hangzhou, right? Well, I grew up in Hangzhou, and then came to London to study abroad after college. The West Lake in Hangzhou is very famous. I would really like to see it if I have the chance. Do you still know about West Lake? Although Baron spoke Chinese very fluently, in front of Wang Wanting, she could see the typical British face of Wang Wanting when she raised her head, so she asked with a little surprise. Of course, I also know about White Snake and Su Xian. Well, there is a company in Hangzhou called Alibaba, which is similar to Amazon in the United States. You know a lot about Chinese culture, Your Highness the Duke, but I only learned about the Ali company in Hangzhou when I returned to China. This company had not yet appeared when I was in school. Alibaba Company was founded by Boss Ma in 1999. However, although by this time, it had gone through 2 rounds of financing, including the initial $20 million invested by Sun Jingyi's SoftBank, it was still well known throughout China at this time. It's not high, let alone abroad. Even though Wang Wanting was from Hangzhou, she had heard of Alibaba Company at this time, which surprised Baron a little. It can be said that as a venture capital investment at this time, the 2 most worthy investments among Chinese internet companies are Alibaba and Penguin, the 2 future giants. However, Boss Ma had accepted a $20 million Series B investment from SoftBank in 2000, and the 20% stake in Penguin held by Superboy, the son of Hong Kong's Lee Kairu, was also sold to South Africa's MIH last year. Holding Group, even Baidu, after receiving 2 rounds of financing, will not raise funds again in the short term. In Baron's future investments, the internet will definitely be an important direction. After all, at this time, this field is also the industry that creates wealth the fastest. As for internet investment, it is naturally impossible to miss these high-quality companies in China. However, it is not without opportunities. These companies have not grown into giants yet, so Baron also went to China to get to know Boss Ma and others who will become regulars on the rich list in the future. So he smiled and said to Wang Wanting, "Perhaps I will take time to go to China sometime later, and you can go with me then." Are you planning to go to China? Yes, I have always been interested in Chinese culture, but I have never been there. Isn't there a Chinese saying that says, it is better to travel thousands of miles than to read thousands of books? So I hope to have the opportunity to go there in person. Trip. That's great. You will definitely like it there. When are you going to go? When I finish this busy period and don't have much to do, I plan to go to China as a vacation. Exclusive interview with Labour MP Glenda, we should not be waging an illegal war. 2 days later, the front page of The Independent published an exclusive interview with Glenda Johnson, clearly pointing the finger at the Prime Minister who has been advocating that he wants to join the United States in using force against the axis of evil country Iraq. What is very interesting is that the subjects of their exclusive interview this time are also current members of Congress from the Labour Party. Speaking of Glenda Johnson, it is not simple. She was an actress before entering politics, and can be said to be one of the most famous actresses in Britain. She won the Oscar for Best Actress twice, in 1970 and 1973. After retiring from acting, Glenda chose to enter politics and joined the Labour Party. She once served as Minister of Transport and was a strong contender for the Mayor of London. It can be said that her prospects within the Labour Party are very promising, but maybe from now on, she can only serve as a member of Congress, because ever since the Prime Minister began to be inclined to accompany the United States to attack Iraq, and this behavior became more and more intense, Granda has been with the Labour leader was divided. She strongly opposes the use of force against Iraq, and has repeatedly stated in public that it is absolutely unwise to directly wage war against a country with a legitimate government. It was also because of this that the Independent chose to conduct an exclusive interview with her this time, making it the front page headline of the day. This is also a small counterattack by Barron against the government. Chapter 95 Bonnie returns. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Any change of world hegemony will not avoid war. This sentence is true to a certain extent, but there is a small exception, which is the process of world hegemony shifting from England to the United States, indeed, through 2 world wars, and then with the tacit understanding of the United States and the Soviet Union, Britain instigated a wave of independence in colonies around the world, making it unable to maintain its vast colonies and thus becoming the current loose Commonwealth of Nations. In the end, the throne of world hegemony belongs to the United States, but during this process, there was a peaceful handover between Britain and the United States, so it did not affect the relationship between the two. It is precisely for this reason, and in fact, that Britain and the United States are both countries dominated by Anglo-Saxons, so it can be said that the world is currently dominated by the United States, followed closely by the 5 Anglo-Saxon countries. The alliance formed is the Five Eyes Alliance. This system has common interests that need to be safeguarded together, including the dominance of the Anglo-Saxons. This is not only maintained militarily by the NATO alliance, but also through cultural entertainment, deepening the global roots of white supremacy, but within the entire alliance, it is not monolithic. Each country has its own interests. The United States has never relaxed its control over its allies. It is infiltrating in all fields including military, economy, culture and media. In each country, there will be various interest groups, and they will eventually struggle and compromise with each other. Just like on the issue of Iraq, Barron is in a clear-cut opposition position within Britain, and these, in the eyes of the big shots, are just internal differences. This stems from his own blood, pure Anglo-Saxon, and the noblest blue blood. Even if he has differences with the goals of the alliance, it is only due to his own interests, camp or something. Isn't it just for trading? This is Anglo-Saxon logic. Even in the United States, there are still strong anti-war forces. What does the profit that your military-industrial and energy complex can make have to do with our finance, internet, and entertainment? Unless you use your profits at that time to share some profits. Therefore, after this, the increasingly sharp anti-war voice of the Independent was not only Barron's counterattack against the government, but also a signal to them. Do you want me to calm down? Show some sincerity. Anyway, at this time, the Independent was not the only one standing on the anti-war side, including The Guardian, which clearly opposed the war and even ridiculed Prime Minister Blair as America's pet dog, and according to a UK-wide poll last month, as many as 52% of the people surveyed were opposed to the use of force against Iraq, even in Parliament. There are debates on Iraq almost every day, especially lively. At this time, the Labour Party is also trying its best to persuade those MPs. In any case, after September, the issue of Iraq became a hot topic in the entire society. If the public cares about this, then newspapers and media will be happy to increase relevant reports. Many of these newspapers dare to say anything for the sake of sales. Compared with this, the Independent is already the most sensible and logical one. After all, a national newspaper like the Independent is targeting the well-educated elite. In terms of talking without shocking, it is certainly impossible to compete with those tabloids that target the middle and lower classes. Compare. In this atmosphere, Bonnie finally returned to London. After half a month of filming, The Traitors has finally completed filming and is now back in London to continue the post-production of the show. Barron went to greet the show crew in person, but everyone knew that his real purpose was probably one of the beauties among them. We haven't seen each other for many days. Although we take time to talk on the phone every day, Bonnie still couldn't hide her excitement when we met. Even as a British person who is relatively reserved among Westerners, she still couldn't hold it back. When Baron hugged, the two shared a passionate kiss. This scene naturally aroused good-natured cheers from everyone. After returning home, I naturally had to stay up late to catch up on the progress I had made in learning knowledge for a long time. The main work now is the post-production of the Traitors. I will definitely be able to complete the editing of the first issue before the 15th. Now Bonnie has shown the characteristics of a strong woman. Even though she is a little exhausted, she still hugs Baron and talks about work. According to the contract with ITV, Summit Media will take over the ITV channel's broadcast period from 22 to 2300 hours starting from September 15th. Therefore, before that, it needs to complete at least one feature of the Traitors to be able to watch it on that day. The premiere will be on September 15th, which is Sunday, and in the next week, the Traitors will be broadcast every Saturday. I have to say that, very fortunately, Bonnie not only has an outstanding appearance, but also has excellent skin. The most important thing is that she does not have the body odor that many European and American women have. The perfumes she uses daily are mainly light fragrances. Baron kissed the girl on the forehead and said with a smile, "In addition to the Traitors, we also need other programs to fill the broadcast time, so the recording of the werewolf game also needs to be put on the agenda." As mentioned before, the Traitors can only guarantee 1 day of broadcast time per week, and the remaining 6 days need to be supplemented by the werewolf killing competition proposed by Baron for the time being. Now Miller Valley has specially set up a room large enough for the recording of the werewolf game, and before that, this club also held a relatively amateur-level werewolf killing competition. Those who ended up with better results and were willing to appear were also included in the competition called the Werewolf of Miller Valley among the recording list of werewolf competition show. In addition, they also invited many public figures who are interested in werewolf killing, such as some well-known celebrities and hosts, to participate in the recording of the Werewolf of Miller's Valley. Of course, for these people to participate in the recording of the show, they will definitely need to pay some advertising fees, but it is worth it. After all, the participation of these well-known guests can also bring their fans to watch, and these people they choose, they will not be first or second-tier stars, and the advertising fee will not be too expensive, and with the participation of these people, some sponsorship can be obtained in the early business negotiations. The recording cost of the Werewolf of Miller's Hollow itself, except for the guest announcement fee, was not very expensive because there was no location and only one room was required, as long as these sponsorships can keep the program from losing money. As for the latter, as long as the broadcast volume of the program can increase, it will naturally attract more and better sponsorships. It just so happened that the filming of the Traitors had been completed, and only post-production was left, so the previously formed filming team could seamlessly switch to the Werewolf of Miller's Hollow. Chapter 96. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Speaking of which, Baron somewhat admires the efficiency of those entertainment tabloids. When he got up the next morning, he had already seen an article about him in the newspaper, and there was a huge photo of him and Bonnie hugging and kissing yesterday. Well, it's still the Sun, and its own London evening news seems to really have to learn this from the other party, but in addition to the news about Baron, he also saw a news in this issue of the Sun that interested him even more. It's also tidbits, but it's about Prince William. A reporter from the Sun photographed that after returning to school, William quickly came out of his previous relationship and had a new girlfriend. Looking at the photo that was obviously taken from a candid angle, the girl next to William showed a meaningful smile on Baron's lips. He had a chance encounter with this girl before. The same Kaiser who woke up next to him when she first came to this world. It seems that the gears of fate have finally begun to turn. These two are finally together. Baron is looking forward to it. What will it be like when he meets the other party again? According to the agreement between Summit Media and ITV, before September 15th, the other party has begun to play the edited trailer of the reality show The Traitors during the breaks of other programs to prepare for this reality show similar to Werewolf. The program is warming up. Not only that, Summit Media has also placed advertisements in many newspapers, including The Independent. Who is the traitor? ITV1 channel will announce it to you on September 15th. The effect of these early publicity depends on today's results. Yes, today is September 15th. At 2200 hours that night, The Traitors will premiere on the ITV channel. One thing that needs to be mentioned is that when the ITV channel was first formed, it was composed of 15 operators, distributed in 15 regions in the UK, and they all had independent logos and identities. Their operating model is that they are the same ITV channel, and the programs will be different in different regions. Some programs are national in nature, so at that time, the ITV channel will broadcast these with the ITV channel logo. The program, at this time, is synchronized on ITV channels across the UK, but there are also some programs that are broadcast independently by operators in each region, such as certain local news or programs. At these times, the same ITV channel broadcasts different programs in different regions of the UK, which will bring their channel logos of respective regional operators, but now, of the remaining 15 operators, only a few still have their own independently produced program times and their own independent channel logos. Most of the operators are affiliated with ITV plc. Merged to become ITV1. The Traders is broadcast on the ITV1 channel, covering all areas of the UK. Baron will be concerned about the effect of the premiere of the Traders, but he is not too concerned. After all, the Traders is just a test of the waters in the final analysis. It needs to be seen whether it can be loved by the audience in the current British environment. Even if the blocking program is unsuccessful, it's best to try other programs. He still has many popular variety shows in the future that he can try one by one, but Bonnie is different. After all, this is her first variety show produced by Summit Media after leaving Sky TV. Not only does she play the role of host, but she also personally completes the production of this reality show. Naturally, I am very concerned about the effect of its broadcast, so when it was less than 10 o'clock that night, she had already turned on the TV, tuned to the ITV1 channel, and took Baron to sit on the sofa to wait for the show to be broadcast. "It's still early, honey, it won't start until 10 minutes. After hearing Baron's words, Bonnie couldn't help but said, "Aren't you curious about what will happen if you appear in it? It's not like I haven't seen the finished film." As Baron said, in fact, after the editing is completed, not only Bonnie has already watched various versions of the first episode of the Traders reality show. After all, they will continue to be adjusted to the optimal one, but even Baron, I also watched the final film of the first episode and compared it with the version I had seen in my previous life. I felt that it was already very good, so I allowed it to be played. That's different. After all, it's being broadcast to the whole country. While they were discussing this, the time came to 10 o'clock in the evening, and the screen on the TV finally started to play the opening credits of the Traders. At this time, Bonnie stopped talking. She was leaning in Baron's arms, but she immediately sat up straight and concentrated on watching TV. The beginning of the Traders is a relatively high-cost overhead shot. In the picturesque pastoral scenery, on the road in the middle, a row of cars is driving forward. The camera zooms in, giving a close-up view of these cars, and a special shot of these new Infiniti SUVs, with their obvious logos. A total of 22 contestants will arrive at Chatsworth Manor in batches, as a promotional variety show for the manor. It is natural that some close-ups of Chatsworth Manor are indispensable to show the magnificence and beauty of this manor. When the contestants stepped out of the SUVs one after another and gathered in front of the manor, everyone began to introduce themselves or talk in twos and threes, and began to socialize. Just when the camera shows them chatting, there will be interspersed scenes of some of the players introducing themselves. Among these people, there are retired police officers, lawyers, actors, graduate students in psychology, and even people who have worked for the intelligence service, chess players, etc. Anyway, there are all professions that involve disguise and seeing through people's hearts. Involved, of course, there are also some essential roles for guests in reality shows. Some are good-looking, some are social gangsters, some are humorous, some are introverted, and some are gay. When the players had arrived, they began to enter the hall of the manor house together. At this time, Baron appeared, in such a grand manner with a long history, in a hall surrounded by gorgeous murals that existed hundreds of years ago. When a real, young and handsome duke appears in his attire, it can be said that for these players who were born as civilians, the impact is huge. Not only the players, but also the audience in front of the TV could feel the atmosphere, as if they were suddenly transported back to the Victorian era and were received by a distinguished duke. It can be said that this kind of scene inevitably stirs the DNA deep in the bodies of all British people. Judging from the TV, Baron's performance is also very outstanding, especially when he plays the role of Duke. His handsome and elegant appearance and behavior will probably make countless women's hearts flutter. After giving the opening speech, Baron left directly and handed the remaining work to Bonnie. At this time, Bonnie was also wearing a complicated and beautiful aristocratic dress. Her dress was originally one of the exquisite aristocratic dresses collected by the Devonshire family. The purple dress was it suits her, and at this moment she is like a princess coming out of a movie. After introducing some of the rules of the traders, Bonnie said, "Welcome to Chatsworth Manor, this majestic manor that has been inherited for 400 years. We will spend a wonderful time together. Of course, the most important thing is who can get 250,000 when we leave here. Pound bonus." Seeing the excitement on the faces of the contestants after hearing the amount of prize money, Bonnie smiled gracefully and continued. "I just want you to know that the game begins when you step into Chatsworth House. Now, what I want you to think about is, how far can you go in this game? In the chat just now, you may have figured out the details of some people, but have you ever thought, am I the smartest person here? I hope you can line up now and let me see what you can do. How nice, over there." She pointed to the left side of the crowd and said, "The one who is most likely to win, and the other side, is the least likely to win. I hope you will choose your position based on your inner confidence in this game at this time. Chapter 97 performance is pretty good. You are listening at novelfull.audio. When Bonnie asked the players to rank them according to their confidence in them reaching the end, the expressions of the 22 players on the opposite side were very exciting, because since they have come to this competition, everyone must hope to win the prize of £250,000 in the end. As for confidence, since you choose to participate, how can you not have a certain degree of confidence? But here comes the question. It's only the first day of the competition, and we have just entered Chatsworth Manor. So, should we choose to stand in a more forward position and put a huge target on our back? Or do you choose to keep a low profile for the time being and stand at a later position to avoid attracting attention? But similarly, if you choose to stand at the end, you will inevitably be considered as having ulterior motives and hoping to survive until the end. Therefore, for a while, the question of what choice to make lingered in the minds of these players. Although there will be entanglements, after a period of time, everyone still makes their own choice, and 22 players lined up in a team. Okay, you have all made your own choices. On one side, you think you are most likely to make it to the end, and on the other hand, you think you are least likely to make it to the end. After saying this, Bonnie selected a few players and asked simple questions, especially the players at the head and the end of the team. Finally, she said, "Every decision you make has its consequences. So you too." She faced the two people at the end of the line. One of them was a black guy wearing a light-colored suit, and the other was a middle-aged white man who looked very elegant. They chose the most low-key of the two. Bonnie. He opened his mouth and asked, "Do you think you two will lose?" Seeing that the two people's expressions were slightly unnatural, Bonnie continued without waiting for their answer. "I choose to believe your words, so I'm afraid I have to say goodbye." Hearing her words, all the contestants had confused expressions on their faces, because if they understood correctly, the stunningly beautiful host in front of them directly eliminated these two people right now. At this time, Bonnie still had a calm expression. "I want you to leave the venue immediately." "No." "What?" "No, no, 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 no." Faced with the surprise of the other contestants at this time, Bonnie glanced at them and showed a charming smile. "I remind you again, this show is called Traitor." That when seeing this scene, Baron and Bonnie looked at each other and smiled. It can be said that this scene gave the audience watching the show a huge surprise. Before this, there had never been any program where contestants were eliminated so rashly. Of course, in fact, they made this arrangement just to increase the topicality of the first episode of the program. Although the two contestants left the scene at that time, they did not go home. Instead, they were arranged by the program team in a town not far from Chatsworth Manor and would rejoin the competition at a later time. Subsequent reports including The Independent and the London Evening Standard will also use this incident to promote the reality show The Traders, in particular, the London Evening News, from before the broadcast of The Traders to the following broadcasts, will dedicate an entire page to publishing information about The Traders on 2 days every weekend. News before and behind the scenes. The next morning, Baron and the others obtained the data from the previous night's The Traders. This reality show received a 26% premiere rating. Generally speaking, the period from 19 to 22:30 in the evening is considered to be the prime time for viewers to watch TV programs. Therefore, half of the time period from 22 to 2300 hours when The Traders is broadcast is within prime time. If this show is attractive enough, it will definitely keep the audience watching. The 26% ratings means that about 6.5 million people in the UK watched this program last night. The total number of people watching primetime TV programs in the UK is currently around 25 million, and it will be slightly higher on weekend nights. This is pretty good for a new variety show. Of course, compared with the most popular variety shows at this time, it is still slightly insufficient. However, this is only the first episode and further observations are needed. For Summit Media, as long as The Traders can only maintain this number, it will be considered a success, because according to the sponsorship contract at the time, the ratings exceeded 25%, then Infinity's sponsorship fee alone had reached £15 million, which basically covered the production cost of this program. So far, The Traders has signed a total of 3 brands for sponsorship. Among them, Infinity is the most wealthy and their main sponsor. The remaining 2 brands have maintained an average viewing rating of 25%. Being able to bring a total of £10 million in sponsorship income to The Traders is already considered a good profit. Can we contact more business contracts? Fiegel, the manager of Summit Media, asked on the phone. It could be heard from his tone that he was in a good mood. After all, it seems that The Traders has already achieved success, and in addition to the increase in sponsorships in the program, in addition, during the 1-hour broadcast period, they can also have at least 10 minutes of advertising time to earn revenue. Before this, he had no idea how effective their program would be, so there would be some difficulties when recruiting investment, but the current situation gave him more confidence. Whether it is an embedded advertisement in the program or an advertisement in the middle, if a flexible advertising agreement can be made based on the ratings, then it can be determined. Otherwise, you can wait for the performance of subsequent programs. Okay, Lord Duke, actually when we talk about these advertisements now, they are more inclined to set flexible pricing based on ratings. After all, the other party doesn't have much confidence in our program yet. They all understand that they can't say they have succeeded yet. This is just the beginning, and a reality show like The Traders has just been broadcast. At other times, according to Baron's opinion, The Werewolf of Miller's Valley, a seemingly simple werewolf killing competition show, will be broadcast every day. Everyone is still concerned about whether this show can sustain the ratings. There is no bottom yet. Since the program The Werewolf of Miller's Valley is very simple, it can be said that it is enough to organize a few people to play the werewolf killing game in a prepared competition room, then film it, and finally edit it. The selling point is the newly popular werewolf game. Although the werewolf game is currently extremely popular in London and has begun to spread among students and white-collar workers, but whether it can be accepted by the audience in the form of a TV show is still a question. Chapter 98 Social Network. You are listening at novelfull.audio. However, the final facts prove that their previous worries were somewhat overblown. After The Werewolf of Miller's Hollow aired for the first time on Monday, it received a ratings of more than 20% and nearly 5 million viewers. On such a weekday, this performance was considered a success. In fact, many British TV programs, especially variety shows, do quite well in terms of innovation. There are many program models, which were later introduced by many countries, but The Werewolf of Miller's Hollow is the first time that a werewolf killing competition in a room is directly presented to the audience in this way. On the one hand, this kind of game is still novel and interesting, and on the other hand, there are some guests. For example, Bonnie herself participated in the recording of this program as a member of the celebrity guests, and played the werewolf killing game with other guests. As a well-known beauty presenter on Sky TV, Bonnie already has a certain degree of popularity, And after her relationship with the Duke of Devonshire was exposed, she received a lot of attention. In addition, as one of the novel authors, the serialization of Downton Abbey has achieved great success. After the first serialization of the novel ended, a single novel was soon published, with great success. A week after it was put on the shelves, the novel Downton Abbey was on the best-selling list of British novels. After all, when it was serialized in newspapers, many people were not readers of the Independent, and some people, for some reasons, there will be some missing parts in the middle. Now that the single book of the novel has been published, coupled with the previous popularity of this novel, sales have been extremely good. Outside of Britain, whether in continental Europe or North America, this novel has achieved very good results. This also gave Bonnie a shining point in her public image, in addition to her beauty and her talent, making her a well-known host who combines beauty and talent. It was also with this enthusiasm that after personally joining the filming of the show The Werewolf of Miller's Valley, Bonnie herself brought a lot of viewers to the show. Many things will lead to a virtuous cycle. When Summit Media's ratings during ITV's time slot stabilize at a relatively ideal level, it will become easier for them to attract advertising investment during these time slots. But in the final analysis, the current Werewolf of Miller's Hollow is also because it is not difficult to shoot, so it can temporarily fill the broadcast time, but it can be done in the short term. If it is broadcast at such a close frequency all the time, the audience will always get tired of it, so it is imperative to produce or introduce new programs. So at this time, the manager of Summit Media, Fergal, proposed the idea of starting to produce the first part of Downton Abbey into a TV series. With the current popularity of Downton Abbey in the UK, it is actually at the right time. Countless readers are immersed in the story of love and hatred in an aristocratic manner at the beginning of the last century. The TV series must also be very popular. Barron also thinks this proposal is good. The filming of TV series is definitely more complicated than the recording of variety shows. Therefore, if we are planning to shoot this TV series, then Summit Media needs to hire professional producers and directors to assemble the crew. Filming started. Anyway, in England, this series of processes already has a relatively fixed pattern, and Fergal Hayden is not unfamiliar, so next, Barron will leave it to him. After entering mid-September, the official website of the independent newspaper added functions such as blogging, and the number of registered users increased again. At this time, the official website of the independent newspaper has begun to accept user subscriptions for the online version of the Independent. When registered users apply for subscription, they will receive the online version of the Independent via email every day. However, so far, the online version has not. The number of subscribers only remains at less than 10,000, but correspondingly, because there is no need for paper printing and no intermediate distribution links, the online version of the Independent can still be maintained. These are just the beginning, as an attempt to transform the independent newspaper industry. Barron knows that when this kind of electronic publication can truly demonstrate its power, it will have to wait until the advent of the mobile internet, when users can use mobile phones to conveniently receive information from the internet, and with the development of mobile payment services, then ushering in an explosion in the number of users. Through the introduction of Khalid, the technical director of the official website of the independent newspaper, Barron met Davo Bablin, who came to London in the afternoon of this day. It was at that time when Khalid suggested that Barron add a blog function to the official website of the independent newspaper. He mentioned his junior student, Davo, who was still studying at Cambridge, but at that time, Khalid said, Davo was preparing to build a blog for Cambridge students so that students could get to know each other and socialize online. When Barron asked Khalid about this matter again, he told Barron that after the blog website with relatively simple functions was launched, there seemed to be not many students registered. His junior student Davo had already expressed interest in the project. Somewhat disappointed. So at this time, Barron made an appointment with Davo Bablin through Khalid, hoping to meet and talk with him. Before that, Barron also logged into the internet and saw the website of Davo Bablin. It was indeed relatively simple in terms of functionality, but what Barron appreciates more is that the functions of the website have changed very quickly. When he heard that Davo Bablin was the only one maintaining the website, he was indeed a little surprised. When they actually met, Davo in front of Barron was a boy who looked a little reserved. Your Highness the Duke, are you interested in my website? But with all due respect, it doesn't have many users yet, and it's only for students, so it doesn't have much commercial value. Hearing the other party's words so bluntly, Baron smiled. Actually, Mr. Bablin, I am more interested in you as a person than your website. Seeing the rather strange expression on the other party's face after these words, Baron was speechless and added. I'm referring to your technology. I've seen that website. Although it's still rudimentary at the moment, there's something remarkable about it. That I don't know what this student named Dahl has experienced before. Anyway, after hearing what Baron said later, he was obviously relieved. Then what is your purpose? I have an idea now, and I am planning to make a website, similar to the one you have. I hope it will be a social network, mainly for students, but there are many differences. So you want to hire me? Davo Bablin shook his head. I'm sorry, I'm still in school now. I mean, if I wait until after graduation next year, I will be interested in joining. I found you mainly because of the website you worked on before, which made me think you are a suitable candidate. In the early stage, the scale of this website was not too big. I believe you can handle it as long as you work part-time. I can pay for it, and then you can find a few more people to do it together. In this case, it's still okay, Your Highness the Duke. So are you willing to take this job? I am willing. If the reward is good, can you tell me what kind of website it is? Seeing that he had agreed, Baron gave his personal assistant a look and took a document from her hand. This is a non-disclosure agreement. Once you sign it we can continue talking, Davo. Chapter 99 Woaw. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the end, Baron decided to try this kind of social network project in England before Facebook was founded, and he has already made 2 preparations. If it fails in the end, he will wait until Xiao Jia founded Facebook before investing. After all, the temptation of having a social network controlled by oneself is too great. Even if his social network can only retain the European market in the end, it can still be considered a success. It's not that he was too unconfident. In fact, in his previous life, the global internet market could be said to be dominated by the United States. Only China could maintain its own market in this regard. This has led to the fact that the United States can be said to be completely controlled in terms of online public opinion. Even though Britain is the traditional ally of the United States, when it comes to interests, it also needs a platform that it can control. The project I am planning to carry out will be a real social network on the virtual internet. Each user can create a homepage of their own, where they can share their photos, personal interests and life details, and they can also find and connect with each other. Interact with your own friends. Isn't this similar to the website I created? It may seem similar, but the most important thing is to be real. Regarding Davo's doubts, Baron explained to him. The original intention of your current website was to allow students to interact and communicate, but you found that most of the users who registered for your website may actually be students at the University of Cambridge, but they often do not use their real names and information, so this will create a sense of estrangement in mutual communication. Including most of the current websites with social functions, almost all are stranger social, that is, everyone mainly communicates with netizens on the internet, but what Baron wants to do is a real social network on the virtual internet. On the internet, users need to use their own information to express themselves and communicate with others. So how do we do this? Because most people on the internet are not willing to show their original identities to others. This is why I want to start it in universities first. In the early stage, I will use an invitation system to let everyone invite their classmates and friends to join this network. In this way, our social network will have a reality. We can achieve our goal by using our relationship network as the basis and using other methods to encourage everyone to show their true identities. At this time, real name authentication methods such as face recognition are not yet realistic. It is still difficult to achieve 100% real social interaction. It only needs to be based on the actual relationship network at the beginning. A real social atmosphere would be nice. Of course, the website that Baron is about to launch will be a new model called SNS, Social Networking Services, which is a social network service, as well as the subsequent development direction. For more detailed content, Baron, it won't be told to Davo now, although he has signed a confidentiality agreement, Baron needs to be the leader of this project, and Davo will only be his tool to achieve this. The tool does not need to know too much, and basic defenses are still needed. In his previous life, Baron was engaged in the financial industry, but because his work often involved overseas work, he was quite familiar with applications including Facebook, Twitter, etc. And because of the once popular social network, this movie also provides a more detailed understanding of some of the things that happened when Facebook was first founded, as well as its version changes. The only thing is that he himself is not a technician, so what he needs now is for professional people to complete the project under his leadership, instead of sharing the company's growth with them. The attitude required is completely different. In other words, Baron himself knows what functions need to be implemented and how to develop in the future. He just needs people to implement them according to his ideas. This is somewhat similar to Boss Ma, who founded Alibaba. He himself is not an internet professional, but it still does not affect his leadership of the company. He only needs to think about how to do it. As for how to realize his ideas, it is up to him. Hire staff to make it happen. So after an afternoon of talking, Davo already understood what kind of website Baron wanted him to complete initially. Next, he needed to go back to school and complete these. What is this website called? As for this problem, Baron originally wanted to call Facebook directly. After all, taking other people's paths would leave others with nowhere to go, but thinking that if this time it doesn't work out, I still have to wait to invest in Xiao Zha's Facebook. Forget it, let's not finish things yet. After thinking for a moment, he said. Let's call it Woaw. It's easy to remember and makes everyone marvel at this website. Well, that's it. While talking like this, they decided on the name of the website. Before Davo left, he signed a contract with Baron to help him complete the website and obtain corresponding rewards. Next, Baron's staff will help him register Woaw Technology Company. After that, Dahl will become the first employee of this company, and some students will be added in the future. The reason why Baron specifically asked Dahl, who is a student, to do this is that he happened to have built a similar website, and on the other hand, Woaw itself was planning to promote it on campus first, so Davo being a student is more conducive to the initial development of the website. Anyway, there are still more than 2 years before Facebook appears, which is enough time for Baron to develop slowly. At the beginning, the website was not large in scale and the user scope was limited to students, so the expenditure required was not much. First of all, it would be painless for him to spend tens of thousands of pounds to give it a try. How was your day, honey? After Bonnie returned to London, Baron ended his single life. Now the two are living together, so most of the time, Bonnie will come to the Devonshire hotel to live with Baron. After returning to the hotel, Baron waited for a while before seeing Bonnie in professional attire return to the room. He couldn't help but give her a hug and ask her affectionately. Today went well. We contacted Julian Fellows. He said that he liked the novel Downton Abbey very much and was willing to adapt it into a script himself and serve as the producer of this TV series. That's really nice. This is the person you recommended. Yes, Julian Fellows was recommended to Summit Media by Baron. The reason is because this man was originally the writer and producer of the TV series Downton Abbey in his previous life. Of course, the reason Baron gave to Summit Media managers Fergal and Bonnie was that he liked the movie Gosford Park that Julian was the screenwriter for, and it also described the aristocratic manner, and it was also a production in itself. Julian, a human being, can be considered a more suitable candidate. Julian Fellows just won the Best Original Screenplay Award at the 74th Academy Awards for his work Gosford Park in March this year, and his popularity at this time is considered good. Chapter 100 Getting Ready to Shoot. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Today I also talked about Downton Abbey with Mr. Fellows. I think many of his ideas are very good, so it has basically been confirmed that he will serve as the screenwriter and producer of this TV series. Soon the preparation started. Actually, I have an idea, that is, we will film both seasons at once. That's a little risky, honey. Bonnie's worry was very normal for England at this time. This requires talking about some differences between American TV dramas and British TV dramas. Unlike American TV dramas, which are often filmed for many seasons, among British TV dramas, only very few popular TV dramas can be filmed for many seasons, such as Baron's Past Life, Downton Abbey and Sherlock. Not only that, many British TV series are extremely short each season. According to statistics, the average number of episodes of British TV series is only 6, there are even some miniseries. There are only 3 episodes in a season of TV series, nicknamed 3-episode movies. The most famous one in this regard is Sherlock. Just like in Baron's previous life, Downton Abbey had a total of 6 seasons, with a total of only 48 episodes, which means each season is 8 episodes. In fact, it should be 7 episodes plus a Christmas special. This number of episodes is not even comparable to one of some Chinese TV series. This situation has caused British dramas to strive for excellence in the production. Often those popular dramas will be particularly loved by the audience and are full of details, but again, only a few episodes are broadcast, and there will be more to come. After waiting for a year, there is still something to be desired. Now Bonnie has finished writing the second novel of Downton Abbey and has begun serializing it in The Independent. Therefore, it is completely possible to shoot 2 seasons at once, and this has the advantage that the average production cost of each episode will be lower, and the audience will have a shorter waiting time. But what Bonnie is worried about is that if the first season of the TV series does not receive a good response, then only 1 season can be filmed to stop the loss in time. If 2 seasons are filmed at once, I am afraid that there will be losses by then. Baron is still very confident about this. In addition to finding the producers and screenwriters of the previous Downton Abbey series to ensure the quality of the TV series, he also prepared a sufficient budget for this TV series. He believed in the popularity of the previous Downton Abbey series, known as Britain's #1 IP. There is no need to worry about being ignored. In fact, the main cost of this TV series is the costumes of the actors and the props used to reflect the luxurious life of the aristocrats at that time. In terms of props, using Chatsworth Manor, coupled with its luxurious decorations, silverware and artwork, can save a lot of costs, and at the beginning, he also left behind many aristocratic services that his family has preserved to this day. These were originally the high-end clothing of England in each era. They can definitely restore the luxurious life of the aristocrats of the old era in an authentic way, and at the same time, they will also save money. Many costs, of course. There are still many services that need to be customized. In Downton Abbey, every noble will change clothes 2 or 3 times a day. In the first season alone, there will be more than 600 pieces of noble clothing on camera. In this regard, there will strive for excellence. Finally, the situation of the actors also needs to be considered. Because according to expectations, Downton Abbey is likely to be a series that lasts for 6 seasons, and may also face a situation that many series or series of movies will encounter, the skyrocketing salary of actors. When the first part of the series becomes a hit, the actor's net worth will definitely skyrocket. If they continue to participate in the show, their remuneration will naturally increase. This is not true for 1 or 2 people, but for the entire cast of the series. Therefore, to prepare for a rainy day, Baron persuaded Summit Media to directly sign a 6+1 contract with the future main actors of Downton Abbey, a 6-season TV series and a possible future movie. Of course, this does not mean that they are required to keep their pay low, but that the pay for each subsequent film will increase within a reasonable range without anything too outrageous. Actually, I think you are very suitable for the protagonist Mary in this TV series, honey. Now that everything was basically settled, Baron said jokingly to Bonnie. Really? You also think I have a bad temper? In the novel, Mary, as one of the protagonists, is the eldest lady of the manor and the prettiest among the 3 daughters in the manor. She has a high-ranking aristocratic temperament, is arrogant and strong, and is a little bit mean. So Bonnie would ask like this. Of course not. I'm just saying that in terms of beauty, there is probably no one more beautiful than you. Hearing Baron's sweet words, Bonnie was still very happy. With a smile on her face, she said. This TV series is too important to us. I don't want to mess it up. I haven't studied acting myself. It should be handed over to the most suitable person. This is what Baron likes about Bonnie. She always knows what is most important and is not cluttered like some women. The filming of the TV series Downton Abbey is about to begin, which has aroused heated discussions throughout the UK. After all, this novel itself is a very hot topic recently, and it has many loyal readers including Her Majesty the Queen, and another point is that Halo Company, which owns the copyright of Downton Abbey, and Summit Media, which is responsible for the production, also announced that the filming of the first part alone will cost an estimated £50 million. Just to truly restore the once luxurious aristocratic life. Regarding this point, I am not lying. After all, if you include the renovation of Chatsworth Manor and the cost of filming 2 seasons at one time, well, if you round up, it will be almost £50 million anyway. Almost all film and television dramas will exaggerate to some extent when promoting them. This time, they really didn't do anything more exaggerated. At present, this high-profile TV series has confirmed that the screenwriter and producer will be Julian Fellowes, and the director has also been confirmed. The next step is to start selecting actors. Such a big production has attracted the attention of many actors, who all hope to join it. Since Barron's previous Downton Abbey series was launched in 2010, this is several years ahead of schedule, so it is definitely impossible for the original cast to be involved. For example, the actor Michelle, who originally played the eldest daughter Mary, was only 21 years old at this time, still a student, and had not entered the acting industry. Therefore, the cast will definitely be very different from Barron's previous life, but he doesn't have any worries about these. As for actors, there are many. Since Julian could find actors who were more suitable for the roles in his previous life when he led this TV series, he certainly won't say that he can't find them now. He is somewhat looking forward to what kind of production Downton Abbey will be produced this time.